Hi, this is Michelle with Glow Through Life Transitions. Welcome back. And today I have wonderful Stephanie McWilliams with me, and we're going to listen in on all of her business intuitions. And she is the founder of Unstoppable You and former host of HGTV's Feng Shui. And she's a spiritual mentor, intuitive business strategist, psychic medium. There's just so much to her. She's been on so many shows, Martha Stewart, ABC News. So welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Michelle. I am a buzz of energy today. Oh, the things that have happened just this morning leading up to this. So I'm excited. It should be good.
Wonderful. So Stephanie, if you could give our listeners a little bit background about you and how you got started and what you're doing currently.
That is always the hardest question because there's like 5 million things that led up to this, and my brain tends to get downloads of all of it all at the same time. I never in a million years would have thought that I would be here ever, doing intuitive work and teaching the women that I'm teaching and watching them transform the way I'm watching them transform. But to kind of give a synopsis and what I was really shown, obviously she's mentioned that I do intuitive work and I hear voices all day long, and they were really kind of guiding me yesterday to help me understand what would probably be the most important message to convey today. So I'm hoping I do a good job. For those of you that need to hear this specific kind of message from my own trials and errors, let's say. So I think it's important to know, because I can see sometimes people like putting me on some weird pedestal or something just because of maybe the TV or whatever. We love to do that. But I can't express to you enough that, like, I come from Midwest people, math teachers. My parents are super brainiacs. And here I am, this like weirdo, sensitive, dumpy, fat, artistic little kid that never felt like I fit in. And I struggled like crazy. I think a lot of women who kind of resonate with my message are also very sensitive women as well, and very kind of naturally intuitive, whether they know it or not. When I look back at some of my earlier years, thank God I crashed and burned at 19, because it put me onto this path. Whatever you think is lousy that's happening in your life, I promise you, and I have worked with women who have serious stories about abuse and kind of horrific things. I promise you that I am shown all the time through my guides that all of it is beautiful and a gift if we can learn to compassionately see it that way. What I do notice is a weirdo quirk, and I think it's probably maybe just from sheer stubbornness and a bit of like an OCD sort of a tendency with me, is I did have this weird thing from childhood where even if I'm in the midst of crazy pain, I would just follow my passions. I would do things that nobody in my family thought was a good idea. I decided to go to New York and be an artist. Well, that's just a stupid idea in my family. Like, nobody thinks that's a sound decision. Then I got into a lot of healing work just because I was suffering like crazy through my 20s and other times in my life too. But I was just so passionate about it, and it became my world. And then I met my Feng Shui mentor, who teaches Feng Shui in a very different way than any of you. It's like a deep, profound, intuitive, spiritual kind of process that I learned through her as she mentored me. And I became obsessed in my 20s about doing that. Another seemingly terrible idea, to go be a Feng Shui consultant, because there's like 2 making a living in the United States. But I had to. It was just from a sheer stubbornness of becoming an artist and following Feng Shui and following my spiritual path. And as I was healing, my intuition started developing. I'm not some kid who saw dead people when I was 6, and like it was something that developed through quieting my mind. And so over the last couple decades, it's opened up this whole new world of getting access to things to help me figure out my own life, where I can be as hot a mess as anybody, but then to help my clients and hopefully maybe a couple people on here. But there were 2 moments that I was shown stories from my own life that I think have such a potential learning possibility for some of you. It's like, I feel like maybe I'm just a guinea pig to screw up as many things as you can and then learn from my mistakes, which I'm happy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a point where I had done all this healing work in my 20s and actually started coming out of these like chronic depressions that would last easily a year straight each time and more. And I started having some years that felt pretty good. I found this cush job at Disney. You know, I'm kind of, in some ways, some of my friends are like, she's living the dream. She seems like way better than before. But I stopped listening to my gut. I started getting into my head. I started playing it safe. I got the nice little income. I stopped expanding. I stopped being in the flow of things. So there was this point out of kind of seemingly nowhere where I'd been pretty decently happy. And then I had this dark night of the soul out of nowhere that just, it scared me. Like it was bad. And not long after, what I realized though, is I realized I was depressed because I was not keeping up with my calling. Like my inner soul wanted to be expressing itself in a certain way. And I was in fear. I was blocking it. My guides always show me us as like a pipe. We're this perfect pipe. Every pipe is different. But we get these like hairballs inside our pipe from the beliefs, from the training, from the wounds that we get. And our mission, honestly, is just to clear the hairballs, and then everything works out. Whereas most of us are trying to strategize our way through life instead of, we're good, we're golden, we're perfect, we're always on our path.
Yes.
If there are not blocks. So we pretty much everything, even the smartest of us, are going ass backwards, if you will, toward how to kind of live in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this, I kind of got it. And right after that, my dearest friend in the world killed herself.
Oh.
And I walked downstairs. And those of you who've heard this story before, I'm sorry, just fast forward a little bit. And I'm going to get to some intuitive information that my guides are showing me that's really key for everybody. But I walked out of off that phone call and I quit my job. Now I'm not condoning this part of it, but I had no savings. I had no plan, but I knew, like at that time, what I was mostly doing was feng shui. And now it's a whole vast world of what I'm doing with clients. Mm-hmm. But I knew I had to follow this. This was what I had always done, and I had shut that flow off. And this is the scariest thing for us humans, because we mostly live in fear and we're trained that from birth. It's just an innocent way. We're still in caveman years. So those of us willing to hear this, I get that what I'm talking about today is not an easy thing, but it is the way to peace. It is the way to be deeply fulfilled. So I have, like, I'm floundering. I have quit my cush little job. I don't know how to build a business. I don't know anything about money. My confidence is kind of still in the toilet a bit, and it's ridiculous. It's going nowhere. I am trying and efforting and thinking and planning and pushing and trying, and nothing. And that was one of the most pivotal, most important points in my life, that I got so pinned in the corner. Now, we don't have to learn this way, but it kind of usually looks like this, where we just crash and burn, or we just can't keep going the way we're going. And I felt like I was like a little scared animal trapped in a corner. There was no way out. And it was like a total surrender happened. A few months later, it was around the holidays, and I gave up in the best way. If we could see energy, we would realize sometimes when we're in places we think are bad, the best things are happening. I surrendered. I gave up what I thought needed to happen, my plan, how I'm going to make it work. And I didn't realize that state of mind disconnected me from my higher self / the divine, and cut me off from all the access and all the magic. From just total, I don't even know what word to put to it, I sobbed hysterically on the floor of my New York apartment and saying, I give up. I don't know what else to do. I'm trapped. And I said, whatever you are up there, I vow, if you make it crystal clear, you lay out in front of me what I'm supposed to do, I will do it. And every day I said, if you show me clearly I'm supposed to go work at Walmart and be the best Walmart greeter you've ever seen, I will do it. I will own that company. I will be so charming. I will transform people into, and
completely surrendered.
Yeah. And if it's something that terrifies me, if you make it clear that there's something that I think I am incapable of, and I want to throw up in a bucket all day, and there's no way, I will rise to the occasion. 1.5 weeks later of finally, for the first time in my life, surrendering. And listen, I still have challenged with this. It's not like I'm walking around surrendered all day. I'm as human as anybody. But I went to a party begrudgingly. By the way, I wasn't in the best of moods. And I met this young woman who was asking me all these feng shui questions. And she was like, and I was so excited. And she's like, oh my God, you should be on TV. And I'm like, I know. And I was just joking with her, but she's like, no, really, I'm a producer. And I'm going to check in with my boss tomorrow, but we should shoot a pitch tape, which I didn't know what that was at the time. After that, though, and I usually don't talk about this part, but I think it's critical, for 3 months, I put that off. So when I opened up and I surrendered and I opened the doorway, life brought me something, but then I went into freak out mode like we all do. And I was like, oh, I'm too fat. I'm too old. I don't know what I'm doing. People are going to pick it. Oh my God. Yeah. All the stuff came up. I literally was picturing people picketing on my front door all over the world trying to kill me. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And what I realized in that moment, I remember my producer calling me up and she's